There is a moment in every man's life when the noise of the world becomes too loud and the pleasures he once chased feel hollow. In that quiet ache of the soul, what he truly longs for is not a touch, but a home. A presence that doesn't rush to impress, doesn't compete with youth, and doesn't tremble in fear of being left behind. What if the deepest part of a man's heart falls not for what excites him, but for what grounds him? Stay until the end, because by the final breath of this journey, you may begin to see that love, true love, has nothing to do with the body, everything to do with the energy we carry when we walk through the world. Let me ask you this. What if falling in love is more about being remembered than being desired? There is a difference between excitement and peace. One stirs the senses like a sudden wind through bamboo, the other rests gently on the spirit like morning mist settling over a quiet mountain. In the world of relationships, many chase the thrill of excitement, believing it to be love. What endures is not the fire that flares, but the warmth that stays. When a man has lived long enough to feel the emptiness of constant stimulation, what he begins to seek is not more noise, but stillness. A woman who has become still within herself, who is no longer swayed by outer distractions or the need to be constantly desired, offers something rare. She becomes like the surface of a quiet pond. A man looks into her presence and sees himself, not the version he shows to the world, but the truth he carries deep within. In Zen tradition, there is a tale of a young disciple who once asked his master, "What is the way to become irresistible to others?" The master, pouring tea slowly into a clay cup, did not answer at first. Only when the tea spilled gently over the rim did he speak. "You are trying to fill yourself with things so others will drink from you. But have you considered becoming a still lake instead? So calm that even the sky longs to reflect in your waters." Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of depth. The woman who no longer feels the need to fill every space, to impress or entertain, who does not reach outward for validation, becomes magnetic in her peace. Her life may not be loud, but it is deeply rooted. And roots, though unseen, hold the tree. In daily life, imagine the difference between stepping into a crowded cafe filled with noise, music, and movement, and walking into a quiet garden just after the rain. In one, your senses are overwhelmed. In the other, you breathe. The woman who carries peace within her becomes like that garden. She does not offer the thrill of chaos, but the relief of clarity. Many men live in mental noise, expectations, competition, the burden of providing, and the fear of not being enough. To sit beside someone who brings stillness is to experience a kind of spiritual exhale. It is not about doing nothing, it is about being. And in that being, something awakens, a longing not for more, but for meaning. The ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi once said, "The perfect man employs his mind as a mirror. It grasps nothing, refuses nothing. It receives, does not keep. So too is the power of a woman who embodies stillness. She receives, observes, accepts. She holds space without grasping. This absence of demand, this presence without pressure, becomes the rarest kind of connection. And so, the man who once sought bodies now seeks presence. He no longer chases the flickering light of pleasure. He walks toward the quiet glow of peace. And when he finds it in a woman who is no longer moved by fear, insecurity, or the world's demands, he stays. Not because he is told to. Because in her presence, he meets the part of himself he forgot he was searching for. When one understands this, the desire to impress or persuade begins to dissolve. You realize that to truly attract, one must first become still enough to be felt. Now, imagine this: a woman sits at the edge of a lake in the early morning. She does not speak. She does not look around to see who is watching. She breathes. Birds do not sing for applause, flowers do not bloom for validation. And yet the whole forest seems to lean gently toward her, as if to say, "We see you." This is the essence of emotional stillness. Power without effort, presence without performance. Let us walk slowly now, deeper into this path, to the next teaching, the sacred art of witnessing without judgment. To be seen without fear is one of the rarest human experiences. Most people carry hidden stories, wounds they never speak of, insecurities covered in laughter, shame hidden beneath perfection. When a man feels that he is constantly being assessed, corrected, or measured, he retreats into performance. But when he meets a woman who does not try to change him, fix him, or explain him, he opens, not because he is weak, but because he feels safe. In the Shaolin monasteries, there is a teaching: the bamboo does not ask the river to flow a certain way, it only bends and listens. To witness another person without judgment is to become like that bamboo, soft, strong, responsive, and deeply rooted. There is a parable of a master who walked through a village every morning and sat under the same tree. One day a troubled man approached him and said, "Why do you sit here every day? The world is falling apart. People are hungry, angry, lost." The master replied, "Because before I can understand the world, I must first see it. And to see it, I must not judge it. If I bring anger to my seeing, I will only find anger. If I bring fear, I will only find fear. So I sit, I see, and in seeing clearly, I begin to understand. This is what it means to witness, not to fix, not to advise, but to offer your gaze as a mirror, not distorted by fear, desire, or control." In real life, this might look like a woman who listens deeply when a man speaks, not to respond, but to truly hear. When he shares his fears, she does not rush to tell him he is wrong. She does not offer empty affirmations. She holds space. She allows silence. And in that space, he finds his own clarity. He realizes he is not broken, just unseen until now. This kind of presence does not come from youth or charm. It comes from pain that has been transformed into wisdom, from years of learning when not to speak, from understanding that most wounds do not need answers, they need acceptance. There is a quote by the Japanese Zen monk Rai Kan, who says, "My poems are poems. My poems are not poems. After you know my poems are not poems, then we can begin to speak of poetry." In other words, what we call love is often not love. Only when we let go of our definitions, our judgments, our need to mold others, can we begin to truly see them. And only in being seen can they begin to love in return. Witness without judgment is not passive. It is a courageous act. It requires one to put aside their opinions, their ego, their impatience. It is to say, "I trust who you are becoming, even if you do not yet see it." It is to love the process, not just the outcome. When a man feels this, it changes him. Not instantly, but steadily, like sunlight softening stone. This kind of love wears away the hard armor he once believed he needed to survive. And so the journey deepens. Stillness invites him in. Witnessing without judgment holds him there, not through power, not through seduction, but through presence, through peace. As you reflect on these truths, may you begin to sense the quiet power within you. A power not born of effort, but of alignment. Power that does not reach outward, but radiates inward. And may you remember, to be deeply loved, you need not become someone else. You need only become so fully yourself that others can finally feel themselves in your presence. Let the wind pass, let the waters settle. Let your presence speak, even when your lips are silent. This is the way. There is a light that does not flicker. It is not born from candles or the sun. It rises from within, the slow, steady glow of a person who has come home to themselves. This radiance is not the dazzle of youth or the sparkle of novelty. It is deeper, older, and far more enduring. Men often distracted by surface beauty, are not blind to this inner glow. In time, many come to realize that the attraction they once chased was fleeting, a flame easily blown out by the winds of time. What they begin to seek is warmth that lingers, the kind of light that does not blind but guides. And that light is carried by a woman who lives in alignment with herself. To be aligned is to live in accordance with your soul's rhythm. It is when your thoughts, your words, and your actions sing the same song. Such a woman does not try to become something to be desired. She simply is. And in being, she radiates. There is a tale told in the mountains of an old potter who spent his life shaping simple clay bowls. His neighbors laughed at the plainness of his work. No bright colors, no patterns, no glittering glaze. Those who drank from his bowls swore the water tasted purer. A young boy once asked him why. The potter replied, because the bowl does not try to impress, it only tries to hold. And in doing so, it becomes useful to the soul. So too is the woman who has shed the armor of trying to please. She no longer needs to be the loudest voice in the room. She no longer chases approval in the form of compliments or stares. Her energy is soft, strong, like sunlight through morning fog. And just like the potter's bowl, her presence nourishes, not because it shouts, because it holds. In daily life, this might look like a woman who takes joy in her morning ritual. Not to be seen, because it feeds her spirit. She walks not to burn calories, but to commune with nature. She laughs not to charm, because she has known sorrow and found her way back to joy. This authenticity, this quiet alignment draws others close, not by force, by frequency. Men feel this difference. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense it. The woman who knows herself becomes a kind of lighthouse. While others flicker and compete, she stands calm and unchanging, not because life has spared her hardship, but because she has turned those hardships into wisdom. There is a passage from the teachings of Lao Tzu that says, "A flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long." Outer beauty, no matter how dazzling, will one day fade. But the woman who cultivates her inner garden, who tends to her peace, her purpose, her path, only becomes more luminous with time. In her presence, a man begins to reorient his heart. He is no longer chasing the thrill of attraction. He is being drawn to resonancy. He is not excited. He is moved. And this movement is subtle, like the gentle pull of the moon on the tides. It is not loud, but it is unmistakable. When a woman walks in the truth of who she is, she becomes unforgettable, not because she demands to be remembered, but because she has become a mirror for something sacred in others. She reminds them of what they too could be if only they stopped pretending. And when her light meets a man's readiness, love becomes less about possession and more about a recognition. As we move forward on this quiet journey, let us now sit with another teaching, the one that speaks of the sacred silence and space that love truly needs. In the world, we are taught to fill every gap, to respond quickly, to keep talking, to stay available. But in doing so, we forget the power of silence. We forget that space is not absence, it is invitation. There is a story from the monastery of a young monk who would follow his master everywhere, asking questions day and night. One morning, the master asked him to join a walk through the mountains. Hours passed in complete silence. The student grew restless. "Why won't you speak to me?" he finally asked. The master stopped, picked up a stone, and said, "Words are like the wrapping around a gift, but today I have brought you the gift itself." True connection does not need to be constantly spoken. When a man meets a woman who is comfortable in silence, he begins to understand the value of presences over performance. This kind of silence is not awkward. It is alive. It is the kind of space where thoughts settle, where the soul stretches, where hearts begin to hear each other without interruption. In modern life, we rarely encounter this. We rush to reply. We fill pauses with chatter. But the woman who does not fear silence, who can sit with you in quiet, who does not reach to rescue every moment from stillness, becomes rare. She understands that a man often retreats into silence not because he is absent, but because he is processing. And instead of poking at him with questions or pulling him into conversation, she waits, not passively, but with presence. Her silence becomes a soft space in which he can land. In nature, this is the difference between a river that rages and a pool that reflects. The rushing river makes noise but shows nothing. The still pool, on the other hand, reveals the sky. Offer a man this stillness is to offer him the chance to see himself clearly. Consider a woman who, after years of learning and unlearning, chooses not to reply to every message instantly. Not out of indifference, but out of intention. She values space, not to create distance, but to deepen clarity. Her relationships are not built on urgency, but on honesty. Men who are used to being chased, demanded from, or managed often feel disoriented in this kind of space at first, but slowly they begin to feel the quiet safety of it, begin to trust the silence. And in that trust, a deeper connection begins to form, not out of need, but out of respect. There is a lesser-known quote from the Indian sage Nisargadatta Maharaj. The real miracle is not walking on water or in thin air, simply to walk on this earth. In the same way, the miracle in love is not in grand declarations or perfect words. It is in the ability to share space, to walk together without the need to fill every silence with sound. When a man finds such a woman, one who does not pressure him to explain himself, who does not fear the pauses, who does not treat silence as punishment, he begins to relax. He begins to listen. He begins to open. The bond that forms here is unlike any other. It is not built on drama, performance, or roles. It is built on Dak's allowance, on mutual respect for each other's inner world. Such love is not loud, but it echoes. It may not be urgent, but it is enduring. And so, we return to the breath, to the slow exhale, to the stillness of knowing that nothing needs to be said, and yet everything is understood. We are not here to impress. We are here to be. And in our being, the right souls will find us, not through noise, but through resonance. In stillness, we shine. In silence, we deepen. In presence, we remember who we are and allow others to do the same. These teachings sit within you like stones at the bottom of a calm river, silent, unmoving, and yet shaping everything that flows above. You need not push to be loved. You only need to align. And in doing so, your presence will say what no words ever could. There is a quiet power that lives in those who have walked through fire and returned with dignity untouched. It is not loud. It does not seek applause. It simply is. Like a mountain unmoved by the seasons, unshakable self-respect is the silent force that transforms how a woman is seen, remembered, and loved. In a world where many confuse surrender with weakness or softness with lack of value, a woman who holds herself with reverence offers a reflection of a deeper truth that love must begin within, or it will never fully take root in another. A man, no matter how outwardly strong, is drawn to this energy not because it submits to him, but because it teaches him how to meet her at the level of the soul. He may admire beauty, chase passion, and flirt with desire, but he falls deeply for the one who teaches him how to treat her with care, not through words or demands, but through her unwavering alignment with her own worth. There is a Zen parable of a young traveler who enters a village and is warned never to approach the old stone gate in the forest beyond. Curious, he wanders there anyway. Upon reaching the gate, he sees no guard, no warning, nothing alarming, only a worn sign that reads, "Enter only if you know what you seek." He waits for hours, watching others come and go. Some pass through and return weeping. Some turn away before entering. The gate itself never moves, never speaks. Yet it teaches all who approach. Such is the nature of a woman who honors her boundaries. She does not need to argue, to convince, or to punish. Her energy, her quiet clarity becomes the gate. And only those who are ready for truth, for care, for depth remain. Boundaries are not walls, they are invitations. They say, if you wish to enter, do so with awareness. A woman with self-respect does not seek to be needed. She offers, not clings. She loves, but not at the cost of self-abandonment. She may walk alongside a man, but she will not walk beneath him. And in doing so, awakens the noble part of him, the part that wants to rise, not dominate. In the rhythm of everyday life, self-respect reveals itself in small moments. It is the refusal to chase love that confuses or diminishes. It is the choice to walk away from those who offer only fragments. It is the stillness in her voice when others raise theirs. It is the calm with which she holds herself even when misunderstood. This kind of grace does not come from pride. It comes from practice. A practice of listening inwardly, of saying yes only when the heart aligns and no when it does not. In nature, we see this in the way the moon does not beg the ocean to rise, and yet the tides obey her gravity. She does not shout, she pulls, and the ocean, mighty as it is, follows. Men do not often speak of it openly, but they remember the women who made them better, not by correcting, but by reflecting. The woman who respected herself enough to expect respect in return taught him how to hold love with hands that do not crush. She did not stay to teach a lesson. She simply lived her truth, and that truth echoed long after she had gone. The ancient Stoic epic Titus once said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." A woman who knows who she is does not perform. She does not shrink to please, nor swell to intimidate. She adorns herself with her essence, not her appearance alone, but the alignment between her inner truth and outer life. This adornment is magnetic. It does not scream, but it stays. And when a man meets this energy, something within him settles. He stops reaching outward to conquer and begins reaching inward to match. And now, like a river curving through a mountain pass, let us follow this quiet stream into the next teaching, the presence that exists without pressure. There is a love that clutches, and a love that allows. The first is born of fear, of loss of time, of not being enough. The second is born of understanding that true connection cannot be forced. It must be freely chosen again and again, without coercion or chase. A woman who embodies presence without pressure is not passive. She is rooted. She does not grasp. She does not manipulate. She simply is fully. Her energy says, I am here, not because I need to be, but because I choose to be. And that choice, made daily, becomes the deepest form of devotion. There is an old story of two monks sitting beneath a Bodhi tree. One asks, how do I make others stay? The elder monk closes his eyes and replies, do not make. Just stay yourself, and those who feel your peace will find you. The younger monk frowned. But what if they leave? The elder smiled. Then they were only passing through, like clouds across the moon. The moon does not follow. It simply continues to shine. To love without pressure is to understand that no soul can be possessed. That love, when held too tightly, suffocates. But when held with open hands, it breathes, it deepens. In daily life, this is the woman who does not monitor every movement, who does not demand attention to feel valued, who allows space within the relationship, not as a threat, but as a gift. She does not ask, where were you? With suspicion, but instead trusts the bond, allowing it to speak for itself. In nature, we witness this in the way trees grow near each other. Their roots may intertwine, but each stands in its own soil, drinking its own water, reaching its own sky. They grow together not by wrapping around one another, but by coexisting in balance. When a man experiences this kind of love, it touches a part of him that few ever do. It is not based on utility or emotional demand. It is based on presence. She is not with him because she cannot be alone. She is with him because her fullness is not diminished by solitude. Her love is not a chain, it is a path. This kind of woman leaves an imprint not because she insisted on staying, but because her presence was so complete, so accepting that it asked nothing, but offered everything. There is a passage from the writings of Indian mystic Kabir. Don't go outside your house to see the flowers. My friend, don't bother with that excursion. Inside your body, there are flowers. One flower has 1,000 petals. Such is the nature of presence. When a woman has bloomed within herself, she no longer seeks outward to be validated. Her presence is her offering. Her stillness, her rootedness, peace, all become flowers that others sense and remember. And when she loves, it is not to complete herself, it is to share herself. There is no fear of losing because she has not abandoned herself to be loved. And there is no urgency because she understands that all things worthy take time and space and freedom. So many men have been in relationships where they felt suffocated, not by cruelty, but by the pressure to constantly reassure, perform, explain. When they meet a woman who does not ask them to be more, to prove more, to fix more, but simply to be, they soften. And in that softening, their own presence deepens. Love becomes less about doing and more about being. It becomes less about holding on and more about walking with. When one has loved in this way, everything else becomes noise. This kind of love is not dramatic, but it is eternal. Not because it lasts forever in time, but because its imprint becomes timeless. So we return once again to breath, to stillness, to the recognition that to be truly loved, you do not need to grip, to give endlessly, or to change yourself into something more desirable. You only need to become so aligned, so rooted in your own self-worth and peaceful presence that others feel more alive just by being near you. And should they stay, it will be because they too have begun to remember who they are. Not because you told them, because your silence allowed them to listen. And that, perhaps, is the most sacred gift of all. There is no map to the heart. There are quiet ones. Stillness, grace, space, light, boundaries, presence. And when a woman carries these within her, she becomes more than desirable. She becomes transformational. To the one watching this, may you not seek to be chased, but to be remembered. May you not measure your worth by the eyes that wander, but by the peace you bring. And may you understand that to truly be loved is not to be needed. It is to be known. Breathe into that truth. Watch again if you must. For each time you return not to these words, but to yourself,